Mayor de Blasio is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Let's go to it now.
We're going to talk about how we restore public health, restore public safety, bring our schools back. All roads lead to the same place: vaccination. Everything that we need to do for each other, everything we need to do for our city, depends on increasing the number of vaccinations all the time. And that's what we've been focused on now, this whole, over almost a year now, getting ready for the vaccinations, then making sure that they were reaching as many New Yorkers as possible, as quickly as possible. That work continues every single day. Now, New York City, people should be proud, you should be proud that we've really doubled down on vaccination. But it's against a backdrop that's really troubling. We saw just in the last few days a really horrible milestone for our country: 700,000 COVID deaths. It's painful, it's awful, and so many of them were avoidable with vaccination. As of today, 99% of the deaths in this country have been from among those who are unvaccinated. 99% of those who we've lost were unvaccinated. It's horrible, and you look at the map on the screen, that's from the New York Times, and it shows where we're losing thousands and thousands of Americans in the places where people are less vaccinated. I keep saying we got to end the COVID era, and I believe it. We can end the COVID era. We can make COVID like so many other diseases that we deal with but don't dominate our lives. We can do that, but we can only do that through vaccination. New York City has been one of the great national leaders in the vaccination effort. I want to give credit to all New Yorkers who have participated, to the vaccinators, to our healthcare team, but everyone out there, Test and Trace Corps, everyone has been a part of that. The bottom line is, if you are vaccinated, your chance of getting through this is overwhelmingly good. If you're unvaccinated, you're 10 times more likely to be hospitalized. And we've seen every day our vaccination levels increase, we've seen our hospitalization rate go down. And it's really gone down in a big way in the last days. We're going to talk about that. It's very exciting to see the impact of all these vaccinations. Now, we said months ago we're going to use a strategy of mandates and incentives. We needed both. Incentives play a role, mandates play a role. We've had three key elements. We've been doing this since July: the $100 incentive, the workforce vaccine mandates for our public workforce, and the key to NYC requirement for indoor dining and entertainment and fitness. These three strategies together have had a profound impact. As of today in New York City, from the beginning of our effort, we're past 11.5 million doses of vaccine given. And a lot of that is because of what we did in recent months with incentives and mandates. Since we announced the incentives and the mandates starting in July, over 1.7 million doses. This is from late July to now, so just over 2 months. Over 1.7 million more doses, a 45% increase in the daily rate for vaccination in this city since we announced these new approaches. Look, here's my message to all the mayors of America. Here's my message to all the governors of America. Put these mandates in place. Put these incentives in place. They work. Do it now. Save lives and ultimately save this country from a longer crisis that could hold us down for months or even years. If we don't stop COVID, we could have a prolonged problem, as opposed to really ending the COVID era by next year, which we could do with enough vaccination. We're going into the winter. We know the winter is a really challenging time with COVID. Across this country, from last December to February, 200,000 deaths. We can't let that happen again. It can be stopped. People can be saved with vaccination. There are 70 million people in this country who remain unvaccinated. It's a staggering figure, but it can be overcome. But cities and states need to step up. Put that $100 incentive in place. It clearly works. We've proven it. Put the mandates in place for public workforces. Put the mandates in place for indoor dining. Do the things that people will respond to. Now, one of the most important actions we took was the mandate for our schools. Our parents need to know their kids will be safe. They entrust us with their children. It's one of the most sacred things that happens when a parent says to a school community, I'm letting you have my child for the school day. Please help them to grow, please help them to learn, but you gotta keep them safe. That is what this mandate is all about. Every adult in our schools is now vaccinated, and that's going to be the rule going forward, and that's the way to keep kids safe and the whole school community safe. This has been now looked at by the court system over and over and over again. The New York City vaccination mandate for our schools has been upheld over and over in state court, federal court. There was an appeal to the Supreme Court on Friday. The Supreme Court made clear the previous court decisions stand, and so consistently what courts have said is New York City has a right to put this mandate in place for our schools, for the adults in our schools. It's the right thing today, the right thing to do. And as of today, all the employees in our 1,600 schools are vaccinated, and that is unprecedented. And that's on top of all of the layers of protection, all the health and safety measures that make up that gold standard that we put in place last year that's continued to deepen this year. Here are the facts as of this morning, and I think everyone's going to be pleased to hear this report. As of now, 95% of all full-time DOE employees are vaccinated. 96% of all teachers. 99% of all principals. An amazing effort, and I want everyone to know, since the mandate was announced for our schools, August 23rd, over 43,000 doses given to employees of our public schools. So much has been done. Thank you to everyone who participated, but I really want to thank the leader of the effort because she believed from the beginning this was the way to go, and she made clear to everyone we had to get there together, and she achieved it. My great pleasure to introduce our Chancellor, Misha Ross Porter.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. And as you've said, we've been climbing the ladder to this moment for months. And now 95% of all full-time DOE employees are vaccinated. This morning, I visited PS5 in Bed-Stuy, a true hidden gem in District 16, where Principal Gates shared that 100% of her staff got vaccinated, no staffing losses at all. It was just like a regular day for them. Parents dropping off their babies, educators welcoming their students into class, and every single staff member in the building vaccinated. It was wonderful. What does 95% vaccinated mean? It means our employees and staff members, as we've said, are doing their part to keep their community safe. It means there is an actual bubble of safety around our children in their school buildings, beginning today and every day going forward. With 100% of adults in buildings vaccinated, New York City schools are the safest places to be. And our incredible vaccination mandate made this possible. Every employee from pre-K to adult education, from the Bronx to Far Rockaway, cares deeply about our students, and that's how we got to this moment. Now, this used to mean staying after class with a student or bringing in school supplies for those in need. But in the age of COVID-19, it also means getting vaccinated. And I want to personally thank everyone, every educator, every food service worker, every school safety agent, every principal, assistant principal, every substitute teacher, every custodial worker, and every single employee in our system who stepped up and took this vital step to keep our children safe. 18,000 new shots were given out since last Friday. That's an incredible surge. To those who have not yet gotten vaccinated, it's never too late to get the life-saving vaccine. Get your first dose today. You are more than welcome to come back to work. Our students need you, our city needs you. To parents who are worried about disruption in our babies' schools this week, we are prepared for this moment. We've been working so hard to get to this moment. We have thousands of vaccinated substitutes on hand, and we are working hand in hand to support and ensure the continuity of instruction in every school every day. A benefit of being the largest district in the nation is that we have the largest village of dedicated adults prepared to step up for our young people. This week, vaccination sites will continue to be in every single school with students ages 12 and over. They are there to provide both first and second doses. And we're happy to announce that today we're starting our first round of second doses in our schools for our students. If you are a mom or dad who's been sitting on the fence, now is the time to have your baby get vaccinated and be protected from COVID-19. Vaccination means more time in school, access to sports and extracurriculars, and more importantly, a faster return to our normal. Once again, thank you to every staff member who got vaccinated. Every single one of you is such an important piece in the armor protecting us from this pandemic. And thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for making sure school staff are vaccinated and reassuring parents citywide. Together, we are making sure our kids can stay in school safely and get the excellent public school education they deserve in each and every one of our New York City public schools.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. And Chancellor, I know that a huge amount of work went in with you and your team to get ready for today. I'm hearing really good reports from around our school system, our 1,600 schools, that the right steps were taken to keep everything moving forward. But it all begins with that amazing fact: 95% of full-time DOE employees have now received at least one dose of the vaccine. That's amazing. I want you to now hear what this means to families, what it means to parents, what it means to kids. I want you to hear from a parent from the Bronx, and she went through, like all of us, all the challenges of COVID in the last year and a half, but parents went through particularly tough challenges, trying to make sure that their kids could keep learning and growing even with all the problems surrounding them. And parents want to make sure that that environment is safe going forward because they want their kids in school. Paula Ellis has a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old at PSMS 5 in the Bronx. I want you to hear her story. Welcome, Paula Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Porter. My name is Paula Ellis, and I'm the proud parent of a 7 and 13-year-old in the Bronx. I want to thank every educator who stepped up and got vaccinated. The last 2 years have been hard on both the parents and the teachers. Parents became teachers, and teachers were separated from their students, the young people they do their job for. Every one of us has had to make the best choices for our children, often based on science that changed daily and a hope that it will become better. It was hard on us as adults, but even harder on our children. I kept my children remote last year because I had to weigh safety against everything I know about the schools provided them. They were separated from their friends, their teachers, and their education. When I heard that the mayor and the chancellor announced that every staff member will be vaccinated, I knew this year would be different. We had these amazing vaccines today. I can rest assured that my children have a powerful layer of protection around them. I know that every caring adult that comes in contact with my children today are vaccinated. My 7-year-old, who cannot be vaccinated yet, can go to school. I know he is protected by all the safety measures that keep him safe, which now include vaccinations. For my 13-year-old, he is vaccinated, and I know that his education will face fewer interruptions as he continues his high school journey. So I also want to thank every educator, principal, food service worker, and safety agent, and every caring adult who got vaccinated is making sure that my babies are protected. Also, thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Well, we've lost her sound. Hey, Paula, can you hear us? We lost your sound there. I don't know if something got muted. It's a video connection. Okay, well, Paula, thank you. I'm sorry we lost the end of what you said, but I want to amplify your thanks to all of our educators and all of our staff who did the right thing and got vaccinated. Because hearing your voice, Paula, I can hear the reassurance that you now feel as a parent. So thank you for speaking up for your fellow parents, and thank you to everyone at DOE who did the right thing and got vaccinated. And I got to tell you, having a mandate, having some clear rules, having a deadline really makes a difference. Powerful tweet this morning from the White House Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, and he was responding to the news of the success of the New York City Department of Education with 95% of employees now vaccinated. He said this simply this morning: we all know it. There are people who just wait until the deadline. It's a reality, and it's why vaccine requirements are needed and effective. Exactly right, and this is why all over the country, schools should do it, Cities should do it, mayors should step up, governors should step up for their states. These mandates work. It's what's going to save this country. And I want you now to hear from someone who is absolutely an expert, because he has the well-being of all the children of America as his responsibility. He is leading this country's efforts to educate our children, but he has an additional job now to lead the way in keeping them safe. And he was here with us on the first day of school. He's back with us on this very important day, and he supported us every step of the way. As Secretary of Education of the United States of America, my pleasure to introduce Dr. Miguel Cardona.
Saludos, Mayor. Thank you very much. So glad to be with you all. You know, students across the country are back in school. They're back with their teachers. They're back with their friends where they belong. They've suffered enough, and we know that students learn best in the classroom. So I applaud everything that you're doing to promote a safe return to school. And that includes, you know, better ventilation systems. That includes masking to make sure that we're reducing the spread. But that also includes taking advantage of what we have this year that we didn't have last year, vaccinations. We know vaccinations work, and every effort that you take to make sure that the folks that come in contact with our children are vaccinated is well received. Thank you for taking the leadership on that. Thanks to the leadership of the mayor, Chancellor Porter, and other leaders, students are back in the classrooms. And I was fortunate to visit New York to see the students in action, them smiling. I visited several places when I was there to see that firsthand. I went to Harvey Milk School, I visited Queens, and I visited PS 121 through on the first day of school to see that excitement. You know, the president made it very clear when not only he asked governors to move forward on vaccination requirements where possible, but also with $130 billion in the American Rescue Plan that Congress passed to make sure schools had the tools that they needed to safely reopen. And we're seeing that across the country. But it takes leaders like what I'm seeing here in New York, mayor, chancellor, to do the right thing. I remember the impact COVID had on New York when it first came out. New York City was one of the hardest hit areas, and it's going to take strong leadership to get out of this. And 95% of the staff that work there are vaccinated already. That goes to show that leadership matters, that the New Yorkers get it. In fact, I learned that there's less cases when schools reopen. So you're doing it right. Students need to be in the classroom, they need to be safe, and we need to make sure we're doing everything possible to let our staff get vaccinated and make sure that our schools are as safe as possible. Listen, we have a lot of important work to do to close achievement disparities, to improve college access, and it takes strong leaders like yourself and the team that you work for to make sure the job gets done. It's not always popular, but it's the right thing to do to protect our children. I commend all the educators across New York City for your leadership, for putting students first, and know that I support the work that you're doing over there. Continue to lead and continue to protect our students, keeping them safe, learning in the classroom where they learn best. Again, thank you for the invitation. Have a great day.
Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. I got to tell you, it has helped us every step of the way to have your support, to have President Biden's support for these mandates, for these strong measures. It's made a world of difference to have leadership in Washington backing us up every step along the way. So all I can say to you is muchísimas gracias. It has been tremendously helpful. And we look forward to hosting you again soon in New York City.
Thank you. Sigan pa'lante.
Everybody, I want you now to hear from a leader who is an elected official, but for years and years, he was a public school teacher. He understands how important it is to protect our kids. He can give the perspective as a teacher, but also as someone serving a whole district in the Bronx, and he's stood by us every step of the way as we put these crucial mandates in place to get everyone vaccinated, get everyone safe. My pleasure to introduce Councilmember Eric Dinowitz.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. You keep mentioning that 95% number. I think most students would be very pleased with a score of 95% on any of their tests with the report card. It's really incredible. So many people are vaccinated. I mean, teachers and paraprofessionals and school aides, food service workers, custodian, administrators, related service providers, social workers. I mean, they give so much, and you know, rarely do they hear thank you. So I first want to say thank you. And not just for getting vaccinated, but, for coming to work every day, every single day, even, before the pandemic. You were giving so much emotional and physical energy to make sure the next generation in our community had a bright future. And, with the pandemic, taking care of our kids in our city during the most tumultuous time in most of our lives with ever-changing guidelines and, so many of those educators probably living with fear and anxiety and carrying the burden of taking care of our children and their families who are also scared and frustrated. So thank you for what you do every day and for what you've done every day since the beginning of the pandemic. And yes, thank you for getting vaccinated. I think, every educator knows what I knew when I was a teacher, that we deserve dignity and security in our career, but our career is not just about us. It's about the hundreds of students we help every day when they walk through our doors. It's about the families that come in for their child's IEP meeting. It's about the communities in which they live. So by getting vaccinated, our educators are ensuring that our children can be physically healthy, and with that physical health, we can improve our mental health and have that peace of mind that we are all at lower risk for contracting and transmitting COVID. I will use this platform to ask for one thing, and I don't know what kind of teacher I would be if I didn't assign homework. So to all the school staff, I think maybe the most incredible things you do in your career is develop trusting relationships with your students and their families. That work you do in the classroom extends far beyond the walls of the classroom. Those families, they trust you because they know how much of yourself you give to their children every single day, that you go above and beyond every day to give them a better future. So I ask, please, when you speak to our families, neighbors, they trust you. So please remind them that they can keep their children safe by getting vaccinated. It is safe, it's effective, and yeah, we're all struggling together, but if we do it together, we can beat this. And with the vaccine, continue to do what educators and parents do every day, which is make a better life for our children.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. That was really powerful. First of all, I'm glad you know how to still give homework. But second, look, you just said something.
I can't check the assignment, but I can assign it.
You can still assign it, that's right. But you said something powerful. People trust the educators in their life, the school staff, the crossing guards, you name it. And of course, the principals and administrators. When those folks who make up our school community get vaccinated, they send a message of respect to parents and kids. They also can help ensure that more parents, more kids get vaccinated. It's a virtuous circle. But today, we're so happy to be able to say that 95% number. I'm going to keep saying it. You're right. That is a grade. Congratulations, yes. Chancellor. That's a great grade. And more to come, because we still welcome everyone who's not vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Move forward with us. But thank you, Councilmember. Thank you for your strong voice.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've talked about the impact of the workforce mandates. Huge, clear. It's really, really made a difference. Key to NYC, we know that's made a difference. And the $100 incentive. So many people have focused on getting vaccinated the minute they heard that, and we have a milestone today, a really big milestone. Since we started the $100 incentive, 250,000 New Yorkers have taken advantage of it. 250,000 New Yorkers who got their first coronavirus vaccine dose. 250,000 New Yorkers got vaccinated for the first time because of that $100 incentive. That's a staggering number. Around here, we're used to big numbers. 250,000 is even a big number for New York City. And we know when we put out the idea of the $100 incentive, it just caught like wildfire. You can tell people heard it. It made sense to them. It gave them an incentive. Literally the same day, President Biden grabbed onto it and said, this is something we need to do all over the country. Listen to what we've achieved, because we wanted to reach people and we wanted to close disparities every step of the way. Since then, since the $100 incentive, 45% of the recipients of that incentive have been Latino. That is one of the reasons why the Latino community is now the second most vaccinated demographic in New York City. Went from a community that was very much under-vaccinated to now surge in the number of vaccinations, a community that's well vaccinated, and that's continuing. Another key goal was to reach younger New Yorkers. That was the incentive, but also, of course, the key to NYC. We knew a lot of younger New Yorkers valued getting to restaurants, indoor entertainment, fitness. Well, listen to this. 40% of the recipients of that $100 bonus have been in the 18-year-old to 35-year-old range. So the whole idea was to reach people who weren't getting reached, and it worked like a charm. Massive amount of uptake, making people safer. We also have the Referral Bonus Initiative, a different kind of bonus, working with community organizations, houses of worship, community businesses, restaurants, you name it, even barbershops. The idea has been go where the people are, and if a community business like a barbershop wants to encourage people and get people to sign up to be vaccinated, if that barbershop's going to help get more New Yorkers safe and all of us safe, we want to reward them with the $100 referral bonus for each person they bring in. Well, there's someone who heard the message loud and clear and acted on it. He is the owner of the Barber Factory in the Bronx. I want to tell you, I'm proud of him. 100% of his staff fully vaccinated. He believed he could make a difference, and because of him, 157 more New Yorkers are now vaccinated. What a great story, and it's my pleasure to introduce an entrepreneur who's done right for his community, Nestor LeBron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my whole team is here. We appreciate you, and my whole team is here happily, and we're fully vaccinated. Woo! So we want to let you know that we're still working at it. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nestor LeBron, owner and operator of the Barber Factory in the Bronx. And we're here to tell everybody that we're using the incentive to help vaccinate our neighborhoods. This community means so much to me. It's where I work, it's where I live, it's where I raise my kids. And that's why we take the proper steps to make sure that, you know, all of us are vaccinated and we take care of each other. We had a vaccination event actually a couple of weeks ago. We combined it with a back to school drive. And there was a lot of haircuts. We cut about 170 kids in the neighborhood, and we had the Vax fan outside. We took care of a lot of people, and it was a pleasure to be part of that. That was a really good event for the neighborhood and for the purpose of bringing NYC back. You know, having everybody up to date with getting vaccinated. We're also participating in the referral program. So for every customer who referred the Barber Factory and got vaccinated, they received $100, and we received $100. And we got 157 people referred so far. So while we're not necessarily relying on the $100 from the vaccination, I mean, it's a great way for recovery from the pandemic, you know, because our small businesses were affected because of the pandemic. Also today is really special because today was my son's first day of school. And, you know, it's good to know that all the teachers, all the adults in the school are vaccinated. So that made me pretty thrilled and excited. You know, it's good for all our kids to get back in the classroom. I know how hard it was for everybody to do the remote learning, parents and kids. So happy for all the kids to be back at school. And, you know, it was pretty cool.
Nestor, I am so proud of you. I got to tell you, I'm proud of you. You've done something great for the Bronx, something great for New York City. You and your stylish group of guys there, you obviously know how to give a good haircut, but you also really made an impact on the community. And I want to tell everyone this is a kind of business that we should thank. Nestor, tell everyone where you're located.
We're located at 4131 Laconia Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10466. That's the Wakefield part of the Bronx. And our website is www.thebarberfactory.com.
Well, that's the place to be in the Bronx, obviously. And listen, You did something great. It's making an impact. There's a lot of people who are going to be safer because of what you did, and the word's going to spread. And also, the small businesses listening right now, you could be like the Barber Factory. You could sign up and make a huge impact for yourself and your community. So, Nestor, I'm going to give you a big applause today and tell you're a role model by what you're doing. And we got to spread the word. We need more community leaders like you to step up. Really want to thank you.
And thank you from our team to you.
Amen. Good job, guys. Good job. All right. Now, everybody, this referral approach is making a big difference. I want to encourage, if you're a community organization, a house of worship, a community business, sign up. You can go to nyc.gov/vaccine referral bonus. nyc.gov/vaccine referral bonus. This is a win-win. It's a good news story. Everyone jump in because it could really make a difference for this whole city. Now, I want to give you the indicators for the day. And there are very, very powerful information as indicators, and it is going to prove the power of vaccination once again. First of all, in the doses administered, we're actually pushing up now towards almost 11.6 million, 11,578,522, amazing number. Number two, daily number of people admitted to New York City hospitals for suspected COVID-19. Today's report, 131 patients with a confirmed positivity level of 16.45%. But here is the number that we are all of us at City Hall, Health Department, Health and Hospitals, everyone is very, very struck by this number today. The hospitalization rate per 100,000 keeps going down. And what we're seeing today is 0.88 per 100,000. That is getting lower all the time. That's a really important to get under 1 per 100,000 New Yorkers is a very, very big deal and proves the impact of vaccination. And then number three, new reported cases on a 7-day average. Today's report, 1,073 cases. Look at that downward drop. Vaccination making a difference. Okay, a few words in Spanish on the Department of Education vaccine mandate. El mandato de vacuna para los trabajadores escolares es como mantenemos a nuestro personal y estudiantes protegidos. Todos los empleados serán vacunados y la gran mayoría de ellos ya han dado un paso al frente. Hemos dado más de 43,000 dosis desde que se anunció el mandato y estamos listos para un excelente año escolar. With that, we are going to turn to our colleagues in the media, but just before I do, I want to say a special salute to a member of the media. I hear he's going on to other things, and we really want to thank him because Henry Goldman's been a mainstay of the City Hall press corps. He's been one of the deans of our press corps and of the inner circle. He is a guy who always asks probing, intelligent, thoughtful questions and cares deeply for this city. So, Henry, I don't know if you're going to be asking a question today or not, but I wanted to salute you and thank you for everything you've done for New York City and wish you well in your next endeavors. And with that, let's turn to our colleagues in the media. And please let me know the name and outlet of each journalist.
We will now begin our Q&A. As a reminder, today we're joined by Chancellor Misha Porter, Dr. Dave Chokshi, Health Commissioner, Dr. Mitch Katz, President and CEO of Health and Hospitals, Steve Banks, DSS Commissioner, Marcos Soler, MOCJ Director. And with that, we're going to our first question from Andrew from NBC.
Good morning. I have to admit, Mayor, I'm surprised that you're not letting Henry lead off on this day of all days.
Andrew, I would. He's not there. He obviously has taken seriously going on to whatever's next because he's not putting up his hand today. But if he does, he will get right into the lineup. But you can carry on his tradition.
I will try to make him proud. And my question is about staffing at schools today. We understand all the good news that you've reported in terms of the vaccination rates, but I am wondering if there are any specific schools where there are staffing challenges today. In particular, we've heard that at New Dorp High School on Staten Island, there was a gap of about 20 teachers going into today, 20 unvaccinated teachers, and that doesn't include food service workers and security officers. So if you were the chancellor, can update what the situation is at that school and whether or not there are any other trouble spots across the city.
I'll give you the opening and then turn to the chancellor. Andrew, look, we're looking forward to a day where anyone who is not yet vaccinated decides to change their mind, get vaccinated, and rejoin us. But in the meantime, we were ready with thousands and thousands of substitute teachers and other personnel ready to go in, obviously some of our central staff. The bottom line is that's a number in that school we can handle. That's a big school. But in terms of the overall picture today and how it's being managed, I'll turn to the chancellor.
Yeah, so like the mayor said, we've been, first of all, monitoring every school throughout the last week. Since our last decision, the last decision in our favor, to monitor vaccination locations that were, sites that were low. And while New Dorp, 20 staff members in a school of that size, while not insignificant, was fully covered by the work of the superintendent, by the work of the central staff, and by subs. And what we want to continue to do is encourage our staff members. We want them in our buildings. We want them in our schools. We want them with our students. We want to continue to encourage them to be vaccinated, and we're going to continue to work with every single school to make sure we're covered.
Amen. Go ahead, Andrew.
Mayor, a political question for you. I know last week you talked about still wanting to serve. The timeline on the governor's race seems to be accelerating rapidly. This morning, the head of the Democratic Party, Jay Jacobs, making a speech in which we understand he's urging folks to sort of line up behind Kathy Hochul. Wondering, you yourself, why would you not want to give the first woman in New York State history a longer chance to serve? Why would you not want to make your intentions move sooner rather than later?
Look, Andrew, I appreciate the question. First, I'd say I think you can tell today what we're focused on. We just achieved something a lot of folks said would be impossible by getting our school system now, all the adults, to 95% vaccinated. That's what I'm focused on, fighting back COVID, ending the COVID era, keeping the city safe. There's definitely still time to talk about the future. I've made very clear I want to keep serving the people of the city and the state. There'll be plenty of time to talk about that. There's also, good people who are considering running for different roles. That's part of the democratic process, and I think that's healthy because it helps us all to have the kind of debate we need on where this city, where this state are going in the future. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. So I look forward to being a part of that discussion.
Next, we have Juliet from 1010 Wins.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Mayor. And like you, I do salute Henry Goldman if he's listening, and I hope I get to see him soon. But to you, Mr. Mayor, given the success of the mandate in schools, will you be applying the mandate now to all city agencies and government employees?
Juliet, we've been, throughout this whole process over months and months, said we're looking at any and all options. We've been climbing the ladder, as I like to say, very, very steadily. This one was particularly important to get it right. We also had, obviously, a number of court challenges, but what's come through very, very clearly is we've won every single one of those court challenges. So these mandates work. We're going to consider in the days ahead what else makes sense to do. Go ahead, Juliet.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So were there any particular agencies that you feel would have priorities, or given that there are lower skewing numbers, let's say with the NYPD, that you would mandate that? Again,
Juliet, we're going to look at the whole picture. We really, this became very clear, both in terms of showing we could make the logistics work, making sure we could serve people properly, serve our kids, serve our families, and also deal with all the court challenges. This has been where our focus has been. We're going to look at everything else now, and as we make decisions, we'll certainly give updates.
Next, we have James from Pix 11.
And good morning, Mr. Mayor, and to everyone on the call. I was going to begin with some kind of comment about Fenway tomorrow night, but lucky for you, I'll also pay tribute to Henry Goldman, an excellent, excellent human being.
And I want to pay tribute to you, James. You're the #3 hitter today, which means power, grace under pressure. A guy who always produces in the clutch.
I will do my level best. Why don't we start with this? UFT President Mulgrew criticized you for not implementing the vaccine mandate sooner in a statement he made about an hour and a half ago. I'd welcome getting your and Ms. Ross Porter's reaction to that, please.
I haven't seen the quote. I'll start. I'll turn to the chancellor. You know what? God bless is what I want to say. 95% of full-time staff vaccinated. We pulled this off in the way we believe would work for our kids, for our families, for our school communities. We've got this success now. You know, you can always do hypotheticals and be Monday morning quarterback, but we've got this success now. I think it speaks for itself. James, Chancellor, what would you like to say?
I would just add, having not seen the quote either, I am elated at what we were able to accomplish today with the help of our entire DOE family stepping up and getting vaccinated. And so this was the moment we were supposed to get to. This was the day this was supposed to happen. And, you know, I just will say thank you to the 95% of our workforce that's vaccinated and protecting our children.
Thank you. Go ahead, James.
Thank you both. Also for both of you, somewhat related, the numbers that we're seeing, it's about 20% of school safety agents remain unvaccinated. What assurances can you give that there's enough school safety coverage with the number of agents available now, and how do you intend to increase their presence?
Yeah, James, the number that I have right now is that the level of vaccination has reached at least 84% with school safety agents. And we expect that number to climb. We've seen this here and around the country. A lot of people get vaccinated, most people get vaccinated by the deadline, and then you do see some others get vaccinated in the days immediately after. So we're at least at 84% now. I think that number will go up. We had a long discussion yesterday of the deployments that were being made, prioritizing certain schools, making sure that the school safety agents we had were in the right places. And I think the DOE, working with NYPD, did that effectively, but I'll let the Chancellor give any other update on that.
Yeah, no, we've been, again, working really closely with school safety and making sure that our buildings are covered. We pulled staff members who were not working in school buildings into school buildings. And again, we've seen jumps every single day. And so we're going to continue to encourage our staff to get vaccinated. We're going to continue to work together and expect to watch those numbers continue to go up.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Next, we have Katie from the city.
Hey, good morning, Mayor de Blasio, and all praise to Henry, although I hope for his sake he's not listening today. He's out having fun or something.
Well, wait, Katie, I really couldn't. I can't make out your words well. Let's start that again. I don't know. Is that on our side or her side? Because I couldn't hear it. Try again, Katie.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I just wish you a good morning and well wishes to Henry Goldman, although I hope for his sake he's not listening today. He's doing something more fun.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
But I wanted to ask you, there was some reporting this weekend from my colleagues at the New York Times and the New York Post about CORE Services Group, which has multiple homeless contracts with the city. And I and a colleague had written last week about how the Parks Department was going to give it, in part, some involvement in the Ferry Point golf links. So my question, knowing what we now know about the city and what it was doing with CORE, including ordering its subcontracted franchise to cease operations, why was your Parks Department about to give a major franchise for this golf course to a CORE company after your Department of Homeless Services, what we've now learned, had already ordered other CORE companies to shut down, especially given the controversial nature of the golf course?
Yeah, well, what I'd say is this. The golf course itself is not the problem. The problem is who used to run it. And we needed a serious national provider. And as you know, that there was some misunderstanding about what even the role would be around personnel. There's a national company that runs golf courses. They are coming in to run the golf course. That's the most important thing for people to know. There was going to be a staffing contract, apparently, the Parks Department was working on to try and recruit community members to that work. I share your frustration. I don't understand why CORE was in that mix. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't have all the facts in front of me, but it doesn't make sense to me, is the honest truth. Go ahead, Katie.
Just for a point of clarification, the LLC that was filed that was going to get the franchise was actually filed by Jack Brown III, who's the CORE person. So I don't know how that involvement was. But was this something that your administration had anything to do with this arrangement? And have you known, we've been trying to get to the bottom of why this was involved. I don't know, maybe Commissioner Banks could speak on it too. I don't know if they were not properly flagged. That was there some intra-agency communication that did not work? So maybe Commissioner Banks wants to speak about this as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a very fair and important question. What I do think sometimes agencies don't communicate properly and information is not shared properly. That is my suspicion here too, because it wouldn't have made sense to pursue something with this nonprofit. Commissioner Banks, you want to speak to that at all?
All I can say is that with this particular not-for-profit, we've been working with DOI, with MOX, and as Katie, I appreciate your acknowledgement of the actions that we've taken to deal with this situation. Also want to just, for the record, make sure it's really clear that we work with more than 60 shelter providers, and I don't want the actions of particular executives in this instance to denigrate the work that those other great providers do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Next, we have Michael from the Daily News.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. Wanted to give a shout out to Henry as well. He's a great guy, a mensch, and it's been great working with him. So I just second what everybody else has said on Henry. I want to ask about the Department of Education staffing situation. How many people at this point have been suspended without pay, just the actual number of personnel?
I don't have the exact number in front of me. I'll see if the Chancellor does, and if she does not, we will get it to you certainly today. But again, I want to use the right term of art. They're put on unpaid leave. Different reality, unpaid leave. Go ahead, Chancellor.
We don't have the exact number right now because we're also, folks are showing up this morning with vaccine cards. So we remain proud of the 95% of our workforce that's vaccinated. We're going to continue to encourage folks to be, like the mayor said, folks are put on unpaid leave and will be welcomed back in our system should they decide to comply with the mandate. But we'll get more specific numbers later.
Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Second question on, the $100 incentives the city's been using, and I'm not necessarily questioning the merits of that and the what you've achieved on it, but do you find it like a bit? Does it bother you at all that the city has had to pay $25 million to kind of get people to do something that's I think that you would agree is a common sense move, is to get vaccinated. I'm just wondering kind of what you think about that. I mean, it's $25 million. I think you could argue it's money well spent, but at the same time, still, it's $25 million.
Look, it's money well spent, unquestionably. Picking up another 250,000 vaccinated people, that's incredibly helpful to the city. And you can see it in the reduction in COVID in this city. You can see it in the hospitalization rate going down. You can see it in our recovery speeding up. It was absolutely worth it. I understand your point. I really wish people had heard all of the science, all of the facts, all the information that was being offered to them and done the right thing before the incentive. But I do want to say with some sympathy, people have been fed a nonstop diet of misinformation very much coming out of the reality of the rise of Donald Trump and all the forces unleashed by it. And beyond that, there's a lot of distrust out there. There's a lot of distrust of authority that has grown and grown and grown. In my lifetime, I'm kind of shocked, honestly, that we went from too little questioning of authority to the point where now, even when the authorities are right, they are not believed by lots of people just for showing up. You know, there's just literally an inability to hear even our healthcare leaders when they're telling the truth. And that's sad to me. So I think, Michael, it's a reflection of the times we're living in. I don't think it has to be this way forever. I think people will get it at some point and start to give a little more respect to the folks out there who really are offering them the truth. But a lot has happened to cause distrust and misunderstanding, and we've had to fight against that. This has been one of the tools that's worked.
Next, we have Emma from the New York Times.
Hi, good morning, Mayor. My colleague did, her story ran over the weekend about this shelter operator, and I guess I just wanted to ask you the bigger question. Should a shelter operator be making $1 million a year from side companies? How is this able to happen on your watch?
And Emma, I don't think nonprofit folks in general should be making that kind of money. As I assure you, there's way too many nonprofit leaders making big salaries, but to be fair, most of them are doing very good work and work that's absolutely necessary for the everyday life in New York City. I mean, we depend on our nonprofit sector intensely. How did this individual achieve what he did? I'd like that answer too, and I don't find it acceptable. If someone's doing the wrong thing, they should not be rewarded. So there is an audit going on right now. We're ready to claw back money from CORE. Any improprieties we find, we're going to claw back money. Anyone who should not be working with us anymore, we have a history of using our powers to make sure that nonprofits don't work with us anymore or individuals don't. So we need to see a lot of change there. If they make changes, we'll keep working with them. If they don't make changes, we'll stop working with them. Go ahead, Emma.
And then more broadly, how do you plan to address self-dealing and nepotism within the shelter system? The story focused on this executive who hired members of his family and intermingled his personal business with his nonprofit, but he wasn't alone. How do you intend to crack down on the financial abuses within the shelter system?
Yeah, Emma, it's not acceptable. And I'm going to have Commissioner Banks speak to this. It's not acceptable at all. It's against a very tough, complex backdrop, where we need more good providers, and they are in short supply. But we have an obligation to provide shelter. It's the law in this city. Thank God it's the law. It's the reason we don't have the tent cities that you see all over the West Coast and so many people on the streets. You know, we have several thousand people on the streets working every day to get them in. In West Coast cities, that's tens of thousands of people. So right to shelter comes with the obligation to provide all the services. That is hard to achieve. But any self-dealing executive or any nonprofit doing the wrong thing, we got to either get them to change or get them out. Commissioner Banks, you want to speak to that?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I completely agree with what you said, but I want to add a few other aspects to this, Emma. First, I said this earlier in response to Katie's question. I think it's very important to emphasize this, that we have more than 60 not-for-profit providers who do extraordinary work. And I don't want them tarred with this broad brush because there are individual bad actors. I think what is important here as well are two things. One is, before we integrated the Department of Homeless Services into the Department of Social Services several years ago, we didn't have the full range of tools that we now have to uncover conduct that isn't appropriate. And as was reported over the weekend, we did uncover there was inappropriate subcontracting and directed that be addressed. And as the mayor indicates, we'll be focusing on whether we were overcharged and taking action with respect to that following the continuing review. But we have directed and the court has agreed to undo these subcontracting arrangements. Second of all, and the mayor was very clear about this several months ago, that we should work with DOI and obtain independent monitor to review all of the various practices with regard to conflicts of interest and nepotism. That review is ongoing. We have a goal of completing it by the end of the year, even though it's the kind of review that should take much longer. But I think that the steps have been laid in place with what the mayor directed several months ago, building on the steps that we had put in place previously, which, after all, did find this conduct that the paper reported on. And we then took the actions that the paper reported on.
Thank you very much.
We have time for 2 more today. Next, we have Elizabeth from WNYC.
Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Oh, hello?
Hello.
Oh, there I am. I'd like to ask a follow-up to Emma's question about the shelter operator. So you're saying that if CORE doesn't make changes, we'll stop working with them. It seems as if they've already, the commissioner just said that the city did uncover inappropriate subcontracting. How many chances does a shelter operator get before the city stops working with them?
It's a great question, Elizabeth, and I do want to emphasize again, I think it's respectful to the people of New York City and respectful to the members of the media to not dumb this down and point out this is one of the really tough realities we face. There are only so many organizations that provide the services. We have a legal obligation to provide shelter. We have to do it as best we can. If an organization is unacceptable, we get rid of them. If they can be fixed, if we can work with them to make reforms and they provide a good enough product to serve people who are homeless, we are going to keep trying to fix that if we can. It's not as simple as just get rid of everyone that does anything wrong anytime they do it, because there would be very few left. We got to get it right. That is a high bar. I want to be clear. We will not accept self-dealing. We will not accept any corruption. We will not accept anyone who doesn't serve our homeless folks right. But we also have to provide support to all homeless people. It's the law. So with that preface, Commissioner Banks, please add on.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to amplify a little bit further, look, since the integration of the Department of Homeless Services into the Department of Social Services, our track record has been to phase out and stop doing business with providers that we did not believe we could reform. Also, it's important to know that, look, one strike and you're out policies haven't worked in many different contexts. And it's important when we discover information about potential wrongdoing that we not rush to judgment. Sometimes it can just be a mistake. Other times it can be nefarious. In this instance, we found information that was troubling. We took prompt action, and the provider has agreed to restructure the way that it does business to eliminate the subcontracting problem. The providers also agreed to a review that we directed of executive compensation. And as the mayor indicated, and we've indicated, where there is improper funds that were used for the conduct that we flagged and directed them to stop, we will claw that back. In the meantime, every night, there are thousands of people that are getting shelter from frontline staff at this organization and other organizations around the city.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Our education reporter, Jessica Gould, is hearing from principals who say that substitutes are not applying for or filling in for teachers. Can you and/or the chancellor confirm and clarify what's going on there?
Well, look, let's again not dumb it down. Some of the principals who are talking are those who might have ideological reasons to oppose the vaccine mandate. That's just blunt truth. But overall, what we're seeing all over the system is, since the vast majority of employees, including 96% of teachers, got vaccinated, There's relatively few substitutions necessary. They were worked on, already in place on Friday. They've been applied. If at any point, you don't have to name any names, you have a school that's saying they don't have a substitute, please let our team know, and we'll confirm to you either if they've gotten a substitute or if they're on the way. But I'm not hearing that problem in any substantial way. I think a lot of work was done to make sure that the help that was needed would be where it needed to be. Go ahead, Chancellor.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. We were creating sub-jobs as early as last Monday because schools had information about who was vaccinated and unvaccinated. They knew where the gaps were. Our superintendents, our central office teams have covered, we've sent folks out we've redeployed people, had subs in place, and we have an escalation process in place right now as we speak. I haven't heard of any place that has a significant sub gap that can't be covered. And so again, we're going to continue to encourage folks, and we're going to continue to work to make sure we are supporting every single school in New York City throughout this process.
Amen.
Our final question for today goes to Alex from Chalkbeat.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for taking my question. I sort of have a broader question about the places where there are, teachers or school safety agents who have not been vaccinated and are, now on leave. Sort of what the long-term plan is for filling those roles. Will there sort of be a rotating cadre of subs who rotate into those classrooms? Can families expect there to be like long-term coverage? What's the city's plan for that?
Yeah, I'll start and I'll turn to the Chancellor. It's a great question, Alex. Look, the bottom line is we got a couple of different moving parts here. Again, what we've seen around the country, as mandates are applied, you get that huge wave of people who do get vaccinated by the deadline, and then in the days after, some additional folks who decide they need to give it a second look, and they come back and they get vaccinated. So I do expect you're going to see some more movement in that direction. Second of all, you might have some folks who go a month, 2 months, then say, wait a minute, this not having a paycheck thing isn't so good, and I miss my kids, I miss my school, they come back. But when it comes to the longer term, we got a lot of talented young people who are ready to take those jobs. And they're getting more experience now. And some of those subs undoubtedly are going to get hired as permanent teachers as part of our school system. There's plenty of people. This is an amazingly good job working for the New York City Public Schools. So there are literally people lined up waiting to grab those opportunities. Chancellor.
Yep. No, again, I agree. And I would also say no one expected us to get to this place, but we did, because we knew that our staff members would show up for all of our children. And just like last year, we built an amazing sub pool to support us through the pandemic. And those folks got a lot of experience last year, and we look forward to making them permanent teachers in our system. Our principals also, we have received an enormous amount of resources from both the federal government and the state. And so principals have been interviewing where teachers have made clear their intentions to not come back, and working on, finding permanent teachers as well as long-term subs. So we're confident that we're going to be able to fill the gaps and continue and make sure our students get the education they deserve.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Alex.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Okay, great. I just wanted to follow up on the WNYC question that was formulated by Jessica, and just ask, so are you all saying that you're not aware of any instances of like schools having trouble finding subs to fill today?
All I can say is, and we went through this in great detail last night and checked in again this morning, I'm not hearing anything that hasn't either been covered or is being addressed as we speak. So, the specific instances we've heard so far, none of them are, if you will, hard to address. They're all being addressed. But Chancellor, you take it from there.
I would just add that if there was a school that had a gap due to a sub, first of all, there are thousands of sub jobs that go out every day that go unfilled. It's a part of the sub process. But we worked really hard to make sure we identified subs, we solidified positions, and where we could not, we also redeployed central staff. But getting to 95% of our system vaccinated really changed the game this morning, and we expect it to continue to change every day.
Yeah, and that's the point I want to close on today.
Sir, there's been a breach in protocol. We have a final word
Oh, wait.
From the one and only Henry Goldman.
Henry Goldman, ladies and gentlemen. Henry, did you get to hear the nice things that I was obligated to say about you because they're true? Did you get to hear them?
I did hear those things that you felt obligated to say, and I appreciate them very much. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure covering you. And the few private moments we've had of conversation, you've heard me tell you that I respect so much your devotion to the issues of income inequality. And it's been a great experience engaging with the members of your administration and with the reporters who cover you. And I've got plenty of things ahead that I'm very excited to be doing now that I have the time and the freedom to get these things done.
Well, Henry, you've done a great job, and I will, as I said, you've asked plenty of tough questions, but they've always been thoughtful and always from the heart. And so I can praise you with a whole heart and thank you, because that's the kind of discourse we need more of. And, you know, I remain hopeful that people like you have set a good example of what we can do to have the kind of conversation we need to lead us out of some of this morass. I also want to say thank you for the Straight Outta Grassano T-shirt, honoring my ancestors. I thank you for that. And
it's a great town. When you come back, make sure you visit Matera, the town of Matera.
It's on my list, brother. It's on my list, right down the road. I'm going to be going there. But listen, thank you for everything that you've done, and really want to wish you well in whatever's next for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Godspeed.
Godspeed indeed. And as we conclude, just everyone, that 95% number. I love what Councilmember Dinowitz said. That's a grade for all of New York City. That's a grade for our schools, our educators, our staff, 95%. Unbelievably strong effort. Thank you to everyone who's a part of it. Our kids are going to get what they deserve, a positive, safe environment. Our families are going to rest easier. And this is what's going to allow us to achieve a recovery for all of us. Thank you, everybody.